Well, welcome back to another episode here on the Inkwell Lounge. I'm your host, Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and in this week's episode, I got to sit down with two UK content creators, Glenn and Michael, who go by the name the Uninkable Dads. We talked all about their origins with Lorcana, how they got started creating content for their podcast, and even a little bit of a look forward to Wilds Unknown with the pre-release happening this weekend. Sound like fun? Let's get to it. Well, hey, Glenn. Hey, Michael. How's it going?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Good. Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to join. Like I said before we started recording, y'all have been on my list for a little bit. And so, fortunately, the stars kind of aligned to where the time zones matched up and our schedules matched up. So I'm glad we were able to make this happen. One of the first things that I like to do when I talk to folks, at the outset, let me just say, if y'all are not familiar with these two, they have a podcast that they do. It's weekly, right?
Yeah, every Friday.
Perfect. Called the Uninkable Dads. So, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I just wanted to set that at the outset in case y'all aren't familiar with these two. So, anyway, so back to it. One of the things that I like to do at the very beginning of my episodes is kind of get the origin story for the people that I talk to. How did you get into Lorcana? How did you find out about Lorcana? How did it take over your life? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I'll let you take it away, Glenn. You can start.
Let me go first. Okay, cool. So I was quite late to TCGs. Basically, I never really come across TCGs until I went to a Comic Con with my son. He was about 12 at the time. We played the Final Fantasy game on console, and they were launching the TCG. So he said, "Can we go and see it?" So we went over, sat down, got shown how to play, and he was like, "I like this, Dad. Can we get it?" I'm like, "I don't really know what it is, but we'll go over to the desk."
Sure,
I'm like, what do we get? So yeah, we got a couple of starter decks, and then they were like, there's these booster pack things with more cards in. So yeah, that was our first experience. I played with my son for a while, which was cool. That game was a little bit too complicated for him as a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So we started looking around for another game. We went through a couple of TCGs, ended up with Pokemon. Played that for a number of years. Then he got less interested as he was a teenager, and we didn't play any TCGs.
Okay.
Then I was looking for something, and I thought I was going to go back into Pokemon. I was looking for something to get me out of the house, get me away from the family. Love them dearly, but
I get it. Yep.
My thing to get out, socialize a bit. So yeah, I thought I was going back into Pokemon. I started looking online, and I suddenly saw this Disney Lorcana come up. Love Disney, and I was like, "Oh, this could be interesting." I went and grabbed a couple of starter decks, brought them home. Asked my granddaughter, who's was 10 at the time, would she play a game with me so I could get used to how this game worked. Played a couple of games, and then she went, "Right, this is my deck then, Granddad." Like, what do you mean? So yeah, so she was like, no, I want to play as well. So we found our local game store. She came out with me, met a great crowd of people. So she was like, yeah, I want to do this every week. And then my stepdaughter was like, where are you taking my daughter on a Friday night? Like, this
and
Disney card game.
Yeah,
but she was like, Disney, what's that? So yeah, she ended up coming along. So getting away from the family and finding my own thing, that didn't work. But in terms of finding something to do with the family that was a great way of spending time and meeting new friends, Lorcana's been absolutely superb to us. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Nice. And what set did you start off with?
So we started in the middle of the first chapter. So right in the time where you couldn't get anything. So basically playing with a starter deck, and I lucked out slightly in that I started with the Sapphire Steel starter deck, and in the first couple of weeks, the only thing we could get hold of was entry packs. But with three of us going, we managed to pull two Bell Strange but specials.
Nice.
So they went straight in the deck and a couple of other cards, and actually had a sort of functioning deck. So But yeah, and then we were very happy when Floodborne came out. We could start buying product and opening packs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're lucky you found starter decks at that point. I mean, I'm pretty impressed actually. It was, I heard people like making like backroom deals or like, yeah, we met somebody in a parking lot, and yeah, it was just, it was crazy back then. I was about the same. I started off in kind of the Floodborne time, and so I didn't really feel the pain of the first chapter stuff, but I get it. I hear the horror stories. That and that first Gen Con. Ugh, yikes. So, not great. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, so Lorcana is my first physical TCG. So I played Gwent online. Played that quite a lot. I played that mainly during lockdown, to be fair. I used to stream it a lot and played that, and that's where I met like Spessy, Joe Curley. Did a lot of streaming on there, and then when obviously COVID kind of stopped, I ended up going back to work, and that kind of stopped in its tracks. There was only a certain amount of time in the day, and then my other half is Disney mad. She absolutely loves Beauty and the Beast. We went to Florida for our honeymoon and stuff like that. So I saw a picture online of I think it was Spessy and someone sitting down playing first chapter Lorcana. I was like, oh, Disney cards. Okay, this looks good. So I mentioned it to my other half, and then that was it. As soon as she got a hand of it was Disney, so she's got that side of things, and I've got the TCG side of things. That was it. But yeah, it was my first one, so it's a bit of a learning curve. I remember when we first started, I was sleeving up my deck with like penny sleeves, and I was like, you can't shuffle this. What am I doing? I need to find out what's going on here.
Yeah.
People seem to have these coloured sleeves. What are these? So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve, but yeah, no, really enjoyed it, and yeah, haven't looked back since really. So
nice. And does she play too, or is it just on the collecting side?
Yeah. So she started off as a player as well. So we'd both go to locals and stuff like that. But then when we had our little one, she's kind of stopped because obviously, babysitting, there's only one of us can go. Unfortunately, she does do set champs, so she'll pop down to a set champ. So she did 1 or 2 this set. She did a couple set 4. So she'll get out and play a little bit, and we play around the dining room table sort of thing. But yeah, she doesn't play as nowhere near as like competitively. It's just casual. So, but yeah, she likes both sides. Being a massive Beauty and the Beast fan, her goal is to try and collect one of every Beauty and the Beast card. So, and it's like that's fine, but there's a few enchanteds in there that are a little bit harder to get hold of. But she's working her way through it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that do that. It's interesting to, you have people that they have like this certain connection to a certain like franchise or IP or something in the Disney kind of, ecosystem. And so they literally will come up. Like I've seen some people that have like, like I have my pins back here in the board. They'll have, Beauty and the Beast, and they'll have the cards laid out, and some pins related to it. They get this whole like arrangement. And it's really cool to see people that's kind of their approach, right? That's what they want to focus on, at least at the beginning. Some people it's just like, yeah, I just want to play. But to see people make that connection with the cards, and I just think it's something that you may not always get with other games, because there is such a like an ingrained feeling about Disney with a lot of us, especially the people that are playing Lorcana, but just people in general. It seems like there's always like a lot of like draw for the Disney side of things. So
yeah, I think that's just got stronger as well, hasn't it? Especially with the latest, coming up to the latest sets now where they've introduced Pixar. I think that's getting even stronger now. It's like you can show anyone a Toy Story card, they're going to know who Toy Story is. You don't have to explain who this random princess's brother who is only in the film for 2 seconds. So I think that side of things, the outside of TCG world, like being able to just recognize the cards is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, and I've talked to a couple of people that this happened with them. How many of the sets that have come out with, just like cards from random IPs have caused you to go back and watch some of these older Disney movies that you may not have seen before, and which ones?
Definitely. Well, it's made me rewatch ones that I have watched, which has been great, and I've loved that. And again, I've got grandkids, so sometimes the grandkids haven't seen things, so I'm like, come on, we're going to sit down and watch this, which has been great.
Yeah.
But the one it made me go back and watch, which I don't know if I had ever watched, I may have watched 1 or 2 episodes, but it was Gargoyles, and I absolutely loved it.
It's a great
If
show.
anyone hasn't watched Gargoyles, really recommend it. So, yeah, that was brilliant because that was one that was like, yeah, I don't really remember that. I don't remember the characters, and yeah, that's a nice thing. You can put the two together, go back and watch Gargoyles. Really enjoyed that, and then get more out of playing the cards because I've now got that connection with the characters that I'm playing out. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I've got 2 older kids as well, and we watched a fair amount of what I'd call like the newer side of Disney. So like the Rapunzel, a lot of the Pixar stuff, that sort of genre, like Moana and stuff like that. So those sort of things, I kind of knew most of it, but there's a few that I still haven't. So it's like I haven't seen Brave. So it's like, we've got this massive Merida card coming out, and I have no idea really. I've got a rough idea of who she is, and but people are like, "Oh, that's her brother," and I'm just like, I have no idea. I need to watch this film.
Yeah, I mean, there's no end to the options that they have to put cards in here. I mean, they're not going to run out anytime soon, especially when they start bringing in Pixar and all the stuff on that side. There's so many characters, and and with sets coming out roughly every 3 months. Is that right now? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's 4 in a year, so
Yeah.
it should be roughly every 3 months. Obviously, we've got shorter. It's only 2 months until the next set, but on average, it's stretches out to 3.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, and they plan these way out. I think they said when the first chapter came out, they had already planned out to like set 7 or something. It's ridiculous how far out they have to plan because of all the, the play testing and everything that goes along with it. And I've heard some of the people, talk about like on the Ravensburger side about how they kind of marry the characters with the mechanics and it's crazy. You say going back and watching like Gargoyles and stuff. It's really interesting to watch that and then go and look at the cards, and then they have like the Stone by Day ability or, which is really unique for gargoyle cards, and how they kind of incorporate that stuff in there. It's really cool. And yeah, it does definitely, like Glenn, like you were saying, it makes it feel more, you feel more connected when you're playing these cards because you kind of understand the logic. It's like, well, yeah, of course that's evasive, or of course that's, that's got this certain keyword on it. But
they do a phenomenal job actually of combining that with the incredible artwork, but also really just making the whole game flow as a game that you can play casually. As you say, really enjoy these characters and these concepts and different combos that have got that sort of movie flavor to them, or play it competitively, and you've got a really deep competitive TCG. So how they balance all of that is just incredible. And as you say, Chris, they've got to think about this so far out. There's the rest of us, sitting online going, well, if they could just change that next set, why don't they change that? Yeah, the game devs must have been like, we had that discussion 6 months ago. But no, they did an incredible job of keeping this game really enjoyable, but also keeping the competitive depth to it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And I'm glad that they haven't, we always joke, or I always joke when I'm talking to people, that it's not magic, right? Where it's like a paragraph of text, on each card that you have to try to decipher. I really appreciate Ravensburger and the whole team on that side for trying to make sure that they really keep this game approachable for people as well. So that if we have people that sit down and they're like, hey, Disney card game, cool. Like we all did. We were like, oh, this sounds really fun. To be able to do that from the very beginning all the way up until set, what are we at, 12? To be able to do that still, and just sit down and say, here's a deck, here's the basic mechanics. Even if you haven't played a TCG before, it's relatively easy to pick up, which is really cool. I appreciate that they've kind of kept that that focus in mind. So
Yeah, so it's one of those ones, isn't it? It's like, like you say, anyone could pick it up and play it, but if you really, really want to master the game, it's going to take a lot of time and practice, and and like you were saying, where they were 6 sets ahead, that's 18 months, that's a year and a half that they're in front. So they've already had the next set of rotation and another rotation after that. So they know so far in advance. It's mental. But I suppose, like you say, with the production and how long things take, they've got to be. But yeah, it does. When you see these things come up of, this card needs banning or whatever, it's like they've forgotten about that. That's like a year ago for them. They've been and gone past that. No, it doesn't. Don't worry about it, sort of thing.
Well, and you think about like the Bucky ban, errata or whatever you want to call it. They're looking at that from the perspective of, sets way down the line. And it's like, oh yeah, there are so many more Floodborne characters that are coming. This is not great.
Yeah.
We need to like nip this in the bud. But for us the players, it's like, well, why are you doing that? We don't understand. It's not that bad of a thing. Granted, it was not great at the time. But to see it like compound on top of that as more and more sets come out, they have that visibility, and trying to focus on what's going to make the experience best for us players while not trying to give too much away about what those future sets are. It's a really, really difficult balance, I'm sure, for them. So.
Yeah, obviously, I think at the time as well, Infinity hadn't been announced as a ongoing format. So obviously, Bucky, the original one, before it got changed, would have been absolutely insane in Infinity.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a very strong reason for why it got changed the way it did. But yeah.
Yep. So do y'all consider yourselves more on the competitive side, more on the casual side, somewhere kind of in between?
I don't know. It's a bit of a difficult one because I do play casually. I like to think that I play the game because I enjoy playing the game. So on that side of things, I'd say I'm part casual because, like, if there's nothing going on, so like last Friday, I just took a random deck. I knew it wouldn't work, but it was just something different. This week I will probably take something different again because we don't have all the cards out yet and stuff like that. So in that sense, I'd like to say I'm a casual player, but also when it comes to set champs and then going on forward from there, so big events. So we do a lot of action events in the UK, which are a company that run big events. They're the one of the biggest ones for the UK. But when we're doing those or a CCQ or anything like that, then obviously I'd like to then think I'm a very competitive player. I'm not saying I'm a good competitive player, but I take it seriously. So
yeah. All right. Glenn, how about you?
I like to compete. I've always liked to compete at things, but I'm not. I mean, Michael's being modest there. He's a pretty decent player. I'm definitely not. I don't really get as much time as I'd like to sort of practice, so I tend to turn up at set champs and get caught out by some random deck that I probably should have known about, but didn't. But yeah, I like competing and testing myself against other people, so I've always enjoyed that. So I enjoy the competitive side of it, but so don't take it too seriously. For me, the thing that that's really just kept me in this game and filled me with love for this game has been the community. I love turning up and spending time with our locals. We both recently went to a wedding of a young couple that play at our local game store.
Nice.
I think there's about 8 of us that were invited to the wedding that will play at the game store. So that's just incredible. We've got this little community now that are doing things outside of Lorcana, all come from different walks of life, and Lorcana's been the thing that's joined us together. So I love that. I love meeting new people as well. So when we get the opportunity to go out and travel to set champs further afield or bigger competitions, just meeting people, and we've all got Lorcana in common, we've all got Disney in common, so it's quite easy to start chatting to someone and meet someone new, maybe connect up with them online. So yeah, the community side of it is definitely what keeps me going, what I'm most passionate about. But when I can, I do like to, grind a few games online before I set champs and go out there and give it a good go at least.
Yep. Yeah, it's it's interesting to me to like look at the people, and when I talk to people about like their local scene and everything, it seems like, and I don't know if it's the Disney side of things or if it's just kind of the general vibe of the game, it seems like it brings in nice people. I mean, on the whole, you're going to get, people are people, right? You're going to have some people that are a little bit more, rough around the edges, I guess. But it seems like, in my experience as well, like even going to DLCs and other different events, everybody seems pretty nice in general, and it's nice to have a community like that where, like you can take, kids or grandkids or, whoever you want and not have to worry so much about, oh crap, I'm going to be sitting in a room and there's going to be people, all around. It's like, yeah, I don't want my kids around these people,
Yeah.
Versus now where we have people in like Disney shirts and, hanging out and playing with fun cardboard with characters on it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we went to the first DLC that was in the UK. And I took my granddaughter, so say she was 10 at the time. Was a little bit concerned, 2,000 people at this event. But it was well organized and she had a great time, and I kept looking over to check she was okay. Every time I looked over, she was deep in conversation actually with the person opposite her often, or she was laughing. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. People were absolutely lovely. As I say, she felt, for a 10-year-old to feel quite comfortable in this big auditorium with 2,000 players was absolutely fantastic. And there were a few kids around, which was nice to see. And I met some absolutely lovely people. It's when the guy sits down opposite you and says, "Oh, I just love Disney. I haven't really played this game very much, but I was in the area and I thought this would be a nice weekend." And then he opens up going, "Daisy, Daisy, Daisy." I sort of screwed my face up.
You were a liar.
"Oh, is that okay? Can I do that?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you can. I'd rather you didn't." But
like,
yeah,
no, you can't. No, you can't play the same card more than once. And yeah. Yeah, it's really cool to see, people that, like a lot of the people, especially the ones that I talk to, but just the people in the community, this is their first TCG. Like they haven't had experience with other ones before, and to be like, really like all in on this and really, really get in and really try to be competitive. There's a bunch of the competitive players, like the highly competitive ones. This is their first TCG too. They just have like a, natural aptitude for it, apparently. But it's really cool to see people from, all skill levels, all walks of life, all coming together because we really enjoy this game. And because of like the Disney draw of it, I think that plays a huge factor. I think Pokemon has it a little bit because they've been around a lot longer, but they've got the draw of Pokemon and people watching the anime and everything growing up, and so they've kind of got that same kind of history. But I don't, and this may be just me being biased, but I don't feel like it has as strong of a draw as some of the Disney stuff does, just because of like the passion and the storylines and everything that's kind of involved in the movies and the TV shows and everything. It just seems like there's a little bit more depth there, at least to me. But
you can have 3 generations sat in a room and they all know Disney, right? And they can all talk about Disney and the Disney characters.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those ones of you've almost got a back catalogue with Disney, right? You've got you've got a long way to go back, and you've also got going forward. They're never gonna, well, you'd like to hope. They're never going to stop making films, so they've got so much they can work on that side of things. Whereas Pokemon, it kind of feels like they have to create new ones at all times, if that makes sense. So you're not only seeing new cards, you're also experiencing the new characters because they're new. Whereas with Disney, like you say, we've had a run of princesses and princess films, and now we're going into the Pixar, so it's like it's a new thing. but it's not new, if that makes sense. Toy Story, we're on to Toy Story 5 this year. So, it's been around a long time. So,
yeah, it's interesting to kind of, and I didn't really think about it until you were talking just now, but like looking at, Pokemon versus Lorcana, and I don't know, Lorcana might get there someday, but you have the different like variants on the Pokemon side. You have the EX stuff, and you have the various, the various ones. I'm not overly familiar with it. My son kind of plays it, sort of. But I know there's like lots of different variants on that side, but like you're saying with Lorcana, it's just new IP. It's just the same, the same game at heart, which is really cool. So in my opinion, I'm glad they're sticking with that versus, trying to, let's see if we can make, Commander into, or make a Commander version for Lorcana. And, I don't know. So like I said,
I think
might get
it
there.
probably will get there with those sort of things, like other game formats. But you got to think I think that's my Magic history is not great, but I think that's relatively new for Magic, right? That's not, something that come out when the game first launched. And you think how old that game is now. That was something that they brought out to inject a new lease of life into the game, whereas Lorcana's got a long, long way before it gets anywhere near the point of we need a new game mode to really excite people here. So, I think those sort of things will come out. Like your 2v2, your 4v4. I think someone's already made a version of Commander called Heroic, those sort of things. So, so you're going to get those sort of things, but they've got time. We've just had Pack Rush introduced as into season 3 of competitive, so that's going to be interesting. Don't know how that's going to work, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But so they'll slowly introduce things like that. But like I say, they've got a very long time before the game needs that as such.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're 11, 12 sets in, but we're still only really a little over 2 years old. So it's really pretty early on for a lot of these games. And I'm always curious, like having not been a part of other TCG communities, you kind of wonder if some of the growing pains that Lorcana and its community are seeing are things that other communities have seen in the past, at that certain time, whenever they, whenever they reach that point,
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so I do want to talk about like kind of the main point that I brought y'all on. I always love talking to other content creators. And so, it's always fun to me to find out, kind of the background behind their, behind their channel or their content or whatever, how they make their content, all that kind of good stuff. So I have lots of questions. So as y'all saw in my outline that I sent over. So first off, I do want to ask, okay, Uninkable Dads. So where did that originate? Was it that you guys knew each other before? Or was it one of those things that like you just happened to like meet online and talk a decent amount and said, hey, let's start a podcast?
No, so we actually met at locals. So, we're both in the same area. We now both live in the same town. We didn't at the time. I was in a different one, but we're now in the same town. Glenn's literally 5 minutes around the corner from me.
Nice.
But, we didn't know each other before set 1 and Lorcana. This is something that we met through the community. It was something that was discussed amongst a few of us. There was a few of us that liked the idea of doing a podcast. I remember we tried a recording with 6 of us, and it was chaos.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't hear anyone. You didn't know who was talking at what time. We then sort of sat down, and I spoke to Glenn and said, look, I can see you really want to do this. I want to do this. I've done a lot of YouTube and Twitch and stuff for years. So, it's that side of things I'm used to. So it's like, I'm happy to do this with you. I can take the reins on that side of things, and we'll work together on building the channel. And then, the name took us ages. I mean, we went through so many different versions, and it was like, we're both in this, but we're in this with, I take my daughter to Lorcana, Glenn takes his granddaughter, so that side of things started to come through, and then the family friendly side / community side, and we're like, we don't know where to go with it. But yeah, I think we've eventually settled on it something dads, like we wanted to get the dads part in there, but didn't know what to put first. But we wanted it to link to Lorcana in some way. But yeah, I think it took us quite a while to come up with Uninkable Dads. I think that was definitely wasn't the first choice.
It's amazing how hard coming up with a good name is. You know, it's like you want to get the branding of it right and make sure that people understand what it is, and yeah. So
yeah, I think I can't remember what it was, but I remember us coming up with a name at one point, and I was like, "That's genius, that's great." And then I put it in YouTube, and about 20,000 different things come up, and I was like, "Nope, can't use that."
Yeah,
you put that in YouTube, it comes up with too much stuff. We need something that you put it in, and like one thing comes up, and then you know you're onto a winner. So,
yep. And Glenn, did you have much experience with like content creation before this?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, I was trying to do a little bit on Instagram, but it was sporadic. I didn't really know what to kind of put. I didn't know whether it was, you know, I wanted to put deck lists out there, or I wanted to do some sort of, you know, entertainment kind of thing to do with Lorcana. I didn't really know where to go with it. So, yeah, when I had the chat with Michael, it was like, yeah, we'll sit down and do a podcast. And so we tried it, and I was like, well, to be honest, we get on well. We like chatting about Lorcana. So if that's what we're doing, is putting, you know, an hour or so aside a week to sit and have a chat about Lorcana, that's great. I'm happy to do that. We might as well do it on camera. But it's gone really well, and it's been a real boon because it's allowed us to meet people in the community, you know, like yourself, Chris. Talk more about Lorcana, which I'm always happy to do. So yeah, it's just been really good. As Michael said, you know, it's literally brought us closer together because Michael moved, and in fact, we were almost at risk of a divorce because at one point Michael sent me a photo of a house and went, I'm looking at this house. Is this near you? And I'm like, it's literally opposite. But I'm like, mate, if you move into that house, there'll be divorce because I'll either be over yours playing Lorcana or you'll be over mine playing Lorcana every night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been brilliant. So it's really sort of grown our friendship together. We've been able to include some of our locals in what we're doing, which has been absolutely brilliant. So yeah.
Nice. And so how did y'all kind of decide on like the format of it? Was it just, you know, hey, we love talking about Lorcana, we love doing it together, so we're just gonna, like you said, just record it and go with it? Or were there any like conscious decisions around, you know, this is kind of what we want the channel to focus on, or, you know, anything like that?
Yeah, we had a chat about it in the early days. We were, so both very keen on the community side of things. So, you know, we wanted to make sure that we were bringing that out. We wanted to be relevant to new people finding Lorcana. As Michael said, you know, he takes his daughter, I take my granddaughter to Lorcana. So, you know, we obviously wanted it to be kid friendly and accessible. You know, if somebody's really new to the game, or it's a child that's watching and trying to pick up a few tips or look out for some deck lists, we wanted to make it accessible to those people. So we've sort of tried to do that. We've tried to, I think, just be true to what we love about the game. As we said, we don't, you know, we like to compete, but we don't take it overly serious. So, you know, we've tried to bring that through as well. Sort of keep it lighthearted. We've, you know, the Disney aspect and the bits that we love about the game. Bring a few sort of meme decks through, some theme decks and things at different times because we know that people love to see them.
Nice. Yeah. And y'all have had, you know, a couple of pretty well-known guests on. I mean, you've had, you know, Chris from the Inquiry and the Inkborn Heroes and JDZ Quest. You brought a lot of folks in. I'm curious, how has your experience been with like reaching out to people in the community and trying to, you know, and have them come on the show and talk just, you know, Lorcana in general, or talk about, you know, meta decks or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we've been a bit lucky in a way. So where we are, a couple of people relatively close. So Harlan is actually literally where our store is, Harland is basically the next what I'd call competitive store over. Right, they're either
Okay.
like an hour away. So we actually met Harlan before we even started doing this. So we'd known him before then. We played against him in set champs. We've done, events with him. So we already knew him on that side of things. So when Harlan was our very first guest, I reached out to him and said, do you fancy coming on? And he was like, yeah, of course. So we did a whole thing on Blue Steel because obviously at the time he was just building the Kiwi deck and stuff like that. And then a few of the other guests, Inquiry, Chris, I met him at one of the events. So I met him, I think it was at Cardiff CCQ, I think. It's one of them, or an Axion event. I can't remember which one. And I just got talking to him because he was also there, taking pictures and stuff. And you soon recognize people that are taking pictures for content and versus taking pictures for the fun of taking pictures. So I sort of got talking to him, and then I messaged him when I got back. I said, nice to meet you, sort of thing, and just reached out on Instagram. And then after a few conversations, got onto the subject of joining us. But yeah, JDZ was quite a funny one because it was one of those ones we wanted to get him on, but we didn't know how to go down the road. We understand, he's very busy. He does a lot for him. So I was just casually watching the Lawcast one evening, and we have a question on our podcast that we've always done from the start. Because when we first had Harlan on, we said to our locals, if you're going to ask him a question, what question would you ask him? Mm-hmm. And one of our locals said, if you could be a soup, what soup would you be? And I was like, perfect. Not Disney related.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. So I was casually watching the Lawcast, and they had a moment where they had a bit of downtime where they were waiting for Rachel to sort something out. So I was like, I'm going to comment. If you could be a soup, what soup would you be? And Greg and JDZ were both then talking about it and got into it and stuff like that. So I then, after the Lawcast, messaged JDZ on Discord and said, thank you very much for answering it, but you didn't give me a clear answer. You did actually pick 3, could you pick one? So he did that, and then for a few conversations later, we managed to get him on. It was one of those ones of, I was watching his Twitch channel, and he was talking about the casual and competitive side of Lorcana, but he said he wanted to do a video on it, but didn't know where to start. And I basically said to him, look, this is the sort of thing we want to talk about. Will you come on? And it kind of went from there. Same sort of thing with Inkborn Heroes, really. I mean, we sort of messaged them a little while ago and just started a communication line, and then it was the same sort of thing. We basically said, look, this is the topic we want to talk about. Is this something you'd want to join us with? And we're trying to do the same sort of thing of like you got doing, get people on that we now want to speak to and find out a bit more about them. It's nice to see these content creators, but we want to see a bit more of the background and the history behind that person as such, not just, their content as such. But yeah, it's been a bit of luck. I will say, knowing a few people has helped, like Harlan and stuff. Like I say, I know Joe. We will have Joe on at some point. We're just waiting to get at the right moment for him. But yeah, so a bit of luck here and there does definitely help.
Nice. I must admit, I never thought we'd be speaking to those sort of people in the community, and it's been amazing experience to get to speak to those people. But as you said earlier, Chris, actually, just the community is such an amazing community. People have been so happy to come on and give their time. They weren't rushing off either. People like JDZ Quest, obviously a very busy man, but he was very generous with his time. Wasn't looking to rush off at all. So there's a, like I said earlier, we like to talk about Lorcana. So there's a bit of a selfish side to it in a way as well. These are people that we just would really like to sit down and talk to. So getting the opportunity to do that has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And that's one of the reasons that I love doing the podcast or doing the show and everything, is that, I get to meet with these people and get to talk with people from, all walks of life. And even the people that are like well known on the Lorecasts, or, people that are just starting out in their content creation journey, that maybe not everybody knows about, or people like y'all that are kind of, in the middle somewhere in there. It's really cool to to get to know the human side, like you're saying, Glenn. It's like they're all just people, we may like look at it and say, oh, JDZ is on the Lorecast, so that's like, the upper level of, of Lorcana community kind of thing. But he's just a guy, and he's happy to come. He's happy to sit and talk and just, be goofy and, and share some of his insights as well. And, and it's really fun to get that humanizing aspect of people. You see people's content and you kind of feel like you know them, sort of. But to actually get to know them, like to know, that you guys play with family and, and that you live like, basically right across the street from me. No, I'm just kidding. Really close to each other. Nearly. Yeah. That kind of stuff is really cool to me, because I love getting to know people in this community. So, I hear you guys, loud and clear that y'all enjoy the same kind of thing. So, so I'm curious, hence the, the dads in the name. Obviously you have other obligations. So I'm curious, like how long or what was the process that y'all took to kind of figure out like the right rhythm for y'all and your lives and everything for, producing the podcast?
It was a bit of trial and error to begin with. We're quite lucky. We've got a friend who actually works in production for like some high-end podcasts and stuff, and he recommended a program to us called Riverside, and that's what we use to do all our recordings. So that helped massively. We were straight onto a very good program that obviously did not a lot of the work, but it breaks down the video into like transcript, so you can edit via the transcript instead of by the video. So that massively helped straight away. But to find a flow took us a while because we were originally like trying to record like a week in advance because we were like, we need time to get things ready, and we were just like, this isn't working, But by the time the video's out, it's old, if that makes sense. Especially when you get to reveal season, we'll talk about a card and then all of a sudden that card's like a week and a bit old. So we then decided to lock in on Friday. So Friday is our release day. We said that's what we want to do. And it always used to be, I've always been quite competitive like gamer as well. So my Wednesday nights and Friday nights are my gaming nights. They always have been, since I met my wife. She's always known they're my nights. So normally I'd go on at like 9-10 o'clock. I'd be on till 2-3 in the morning. So that just naturally took over our Wednesday. So our Wednesday become our recording night. And then basically once we're finished recording, I will stay up until I'm finished and just edit. So, I mean, as you know, I'm sure yourself, about an hour's worth of footage takes about 2 hours to edit. So, if we start at 9, I'm probably not done it until about 1. So it is a long one, but it works for us because then it's all done on the one night. It's all sorted. We sort the title and thumbnail and all that, like during the day and the evening on the Thursday, and then it goes live on Friday. So it works well for us. But yeah, it took us a little while to find a flow of when to do it. And I think just me being naturally that Wednesday is a late night for me anyway, kind of worked in our favor. So it worked out quite well.
Nice. Glenn, how about you? Was it kind of a struggle to fit it in your schedule, or was it just something that kind of naturally happened?
I'm very lucky, as Michael said, that he does so much. To be honest, the show would not happen without Michael. So he does all of the editing, which is a massive amount of the work. It is a struggle sometimes with work. Family, everything else that's going on. So again, very lucky that I've been able to lean on Michael sometimes and let him know that I've got a really busy week, and he's been happy to sort of do a lot of the prep. We message each other back and forth during the week, and then other times we can flip it around. If I've got a little bit more free time and Michael hasn't, then I can do the sort of research and the prep that we need. So yeah, it works well. The great thing about this game, and again about this community, is it's never a struggle to find something to talk about. As you said, every 3 months you got a new set. Then we've got set champs. You know, you've got the DLCs that come up. You've got, you know, switch to Infinity now, that people are starting to look at. So yeah, there's always something that's happening in Lorcana. So you know, we're never sort of sitting there really scratching our heads saying what do we need to talk about. We can sort of look forward in the calendar really and get an idea of probably what we're going to be talking about over the next, you know, 4 weeks or so, based on what's happening in the game and in the community.
Yeah, and weekly lorecasts that kind of keep the content fresh as well always helps. So yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, Lorecast for us is unfortunate because it is on the Thursday. So where we record on Wednesday night, it's like we just miss it.
Yeah, that's true. It would be a little bit old news by the time y'all got
to it. We've been quite lucky that the 2 big set reveal ones have been on the Tuesday. For some reason, they've decided to do those on the Tuesday and then do a Lorecast on Thursday. So it's been quite nice because we've actually been able to keep on top of it on the Tuesday and then do the record on the Wednesday. So that's actually worked quite well for us. But yeah, it like you say, you know, any content creator will know it's, you know, it's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. So I think it's one of those ones of, if anything, the only thing we struggle with sometimes is our social side of things. Like we're working on our Instagram and Facebook and stuff to try and get it better and, you know, be more, don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like more present on that. But it, you know, with, like you say, with the amount of work that goes ahead, just to get out the video every week, it can be interesting.
Yeah. Who knew that, you know, being a content creator meant you have to be like marketing and, you know, script writing and, you know, all this other stuff that comes with it. It's not just turning on a camera and starting to talk. It's, you know, and you can tell, I mean, you guys definitely put in a bunch of work on the content that y'all make, and it's clear y'all do have the, you know, good chemistry together. So it's kind of it's a good balance between the two of y'all. So,
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm curious. So how do you think like your creation journey has evolved over time? Because y'all been doing it for a little over a year or two, I guess a year and a half, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it was February, so yeah, a year and a couple of months. So yeah, yeah, like I say, I think it's getting smoother. You know, the more and more we do it, the more and more smoother it is. But also, like you say, that sort of friendship between us has grown more. And you know, so if you notice, I mean, I haven't done so. I'm sure we'll have to do it at some point. If you look back at episode 1, 2, and 3, you know, compared to now, I'm sure there's a lot more banter in there. There's a lot more jokes and stuff about each other because we feel that more, you know, we know it's banter and it's a laugh and it's, you know, it's dad jokes sort of thing. Whereas at the start, obviously, it would have felt a bit awkward to do that because, like I say, up until playing Lorcana, I'd never met Glenn before, you know. So it's one of those ones of it's definitely getting easier and better as we go, and it's one of those ones of getting used to doing stuff like this, like talking to guests and stuff like that when they come on ours, or you know, we go on somewhere else. It all comes with practice and that. So
yep, definitely. Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. So I have to ask, where did the jingle come from? I love it, by the way. It's so great.
I did the jingle, didn't I? I think it's me. Yeah, I've got basically my cousin and a couple of friends are in a group chat, and I basically pitched the idea of the podcast to them and said, "Look, we need a jingle, we need an intro." So we started working on a few ideas, and we kind of come up with a few of the lyric ideas, but they just didn't sound right. So I'm not gonna lie, we had the help of AI to smooth out the lyrics, and then we had it put something together for us. But yeah, as soon as the first time I heard the whole inkable or uninkable, I was like, that's it, it's hooked. that's locked in. It's like, you know, that is our jingle from now on. So
nice. Yeah, I love it. I think y'all had it like all the way from the very beginning, like the first episode, even not the reveal, but the teaser trailer thing that y'all had. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it was something where I've done YouTube and stuff before, I knew that obviously having an intro is a big thing and stuff like that, and just even having that little background music at the start and stuff, can be really important. So I kind of knew we needed one, so that's why I was like preempted it before the first episode went out. I mean, it does help. It took us 4 attempts to record the first episode, I think, something like that. So that helps.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So
yeah, it never fails. That first time, you're always like, "Oh yeah, this will be easy. We'll just kind of start talking, and the conversation will naturally flow." And and then like somebody's computer crashes, or or the internet cuts out, and it's just like, sometimes you just can't win. But yeah.
Nah. Yeah, exactly.
Michael forgets suppressed record is normally the.
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times.
Hey, I've done that too. I had an interview with Color's Law, and she and I talked for probably 30 minutes or so before I realized that I didn't actually click the start record. And so fortunately, she was nice enough to be like, yeah, we can go back. We can start over again. But yes, there is painful moments like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I did it literally last weekend. Last week, we didn't record the outro, and so we normally we finished talking to Harlan, and we wrapped up and everything, and then we cut the recording to go back in and then do the outro, and we did the whole outro, and then I went to press stop, and I was like, oh. That doesn't say stop, that says record. So yeah, I've done it quite recently, which is quite bad. But yeah, I think I did one where I think it was a full episode. I think we literally got to the end of the episode and it was like, okay, well, same time tomorrow then. So.
Ouch. Yeah, that's rough, I have to say. That or losing an entire video file. Like you record it, and everything, and then you go to like edit it and something freaks out and it corrupts it and you're just like, come on, So yeah, no, I get you. I think anybody that's been doing this for any length of time has kind of felt those pains. So.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm curious, from each of y'all, what has been kind of your favorite episode that you've had so far?
That's a question.
I gotta throw in some curveballs.
Yeah. I'm gonna say JDZ. Okay. He was brilliant, and I think I said to Michael at the end of that episode, I don't really care whether this gets views. I don't care how it comes out. I had an absolute ball talking to JDZ. He was brilliant. Yeah, he was fun, just that natural energy about him. Mm-hmm. Really, really good discussion. So, unfortunately, he did get views. People loved it, so that was great. Other people got to enjoy it as well. But yeah, that to me was something quite special.
Yeah, and you could really see his love and passion for the game. It really come out when talking to him. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it's probably. I don't want to be cheesy, but I'm gonna. It's got to be the Ingrown Heroes. It was. I think that episode for me was because they went so in depth on a bit of their behind the scenes sort of thing, and also being one of the biggest content creators for Lorcana. They were going through some of the bits they do and like a few tips on stuff and so like Instagram they love like templates and stuff like that and just little things like that then for me was like, oh my god, why have I not thought of this? So for me I could have chatted to them for hours. It was literally we got toward the end of recording and I had to be like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna have to let you guys go because we said it'd be an hour and a half and we're coming up to like 2 hours. I've got to let you go. Hopefully we can do this again another time, but yeah, I could have chatted to them for days. It was really good.
Yeah, I had the same experience with them. They're great folks, and in talking to them, they really take this thing seriously. They're all about, like you said, the templates and making sure things are easy to automate and just kind of drop in stuff and they have gotten it down to like an art on their side. So, I have the utmost respect for them for all the work that they've put into it, to get to the point that they're at. And it's definitely well earned. It's not like it's, they're just kind of plugging in the content, and it's the same repetitive thing over and over again. It's really good. It's fresh. It's it's fun. It's all that. So yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. And some of the go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say on that, it was one of those ones of when I realised that obviously we were doing quite well, and I wanted to up the production value of our podcasts and our videos. When I spoke to one of our friends, like I say, who's a production guy, I said, what can we be doing? But it's not going to be really, really time exclusive, because obviously we are restricted on time. And he basically said, if you want to get to the best level, just watch Unicorn Heroes, watch their stuff. If you can get anywhere near that, you're doing well. And it's just like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and some of your more recent stuff has been about the upcoming set. I guess the pre-release is this Friday as of recording this. Wilds Unknown. So are y'all looking forward to it? Is there anything like that sticks out from the set that you're really excited about trying out? Or are y'all doing any like limited events at local LGSs?
Yeah, we've got quite a crazy Saturday. So the two most local stores for us have both got their pre-releases on the Saturday. So we managed to have a chat with one of them and said, look, you've got yours in the afternoon. Any chance you can push it back a little bit, and then we can probably play the one in the morning and make a mad dash across.
Day. Yeah.
For the other one. So yeah, we've got an absolute full day of Sealed, which will be great fun. I really love Sealed. Haven't played as much as I would have liked Sealed, but the Sealed events I played in for Lorcana have been absolutely brilliant. I really love that. I think it's a great way to experience a new set as well, because it really makes you look at different cards. I mean, I watch a lot of content on YouTube, listen to a lot on on Spotify and things when I'm in the car, and people will talk about the key cards coming out for the set, so you know them quite well. But then when you play Sealed, you're opening, you're going through, you've got to find 40 cards to go in your deck, and very often in Sealed I've gone, what, I want to go and test that card actually, because that's a really interesting card that it would have just gone in the binder, I'd have glossed over it. So yeah, I think Sealed is a great way of playing.
Yeah, same. I don't think I was going to do one Monday as well, but I don't think I'm going to now. So I think it's just the back-to-back Saturday. So yeah, I mean, you got to chase those new pre-release primos down, don't you?
Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah, it's and I was on a video with Heath. Now he's the Mad Drafter. The other day, used to be our guest, but he always does, like, he focuses on limited content, and it's really interesting to me to like go through those videos, and especially on that one where it was like a real time kind of feedback kind of thing, to be able to like look at these cards and, as somebody who's relatively new to, TCGs and everything, and especially to a limited format, we usually end up doing draft at our LGS, which, is a whole different thing than Sealed. Well, sort of. But to be able to look at these cards and say, yes, this is going to be good in a limited format. It may be absolute trash in core constructed. But to look at them and say, okay, if I only have one of these in my deck, is this going to be meaningful or not? At least in Sealed, you get the 40. Now in draft, it's 35, right? I think it's 35. Yeah. Which is nice. Honestly, we did, our last draft was 35, and the deck just felt more consistent. Like you could actually get to the cards that you picked, instead of, ending up with the same like 10 to 15, right off the bat. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. But, it really requires you to kind of shift that focus from, okay, yeah, I have 3 of these, or I have 4 of these, to this has to be one of the most meaningful things in my deck for me to be able to pick it. In draft, it's a little different, right? Because you kind of like left with the dregs at the end, but that's a whole different skill too.
I think that's why they brought it down to 35, wasn't it? To try and eliminate some of the, you're being given this card rather than choosing it sort of thing.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to get rid of a lot of that trash at the end. Be like those, 7 cost
The random item that no
inkable.
one wants.
It's like, oh my gosh, no, nobody's gonna ever play this in limited. But yeah, it's I love it. I think it's kind of an interesting like mental challenge. I wish that more stores and more events would do limited as kind of a like a primary kind of thing. But I mean, core constructed is just always going to rule and be the dominant one. But at DLCs and stuff, it's always fun to have like the side events where it's the sealed and limited. And I did one in Richmond that was, let's see, the first round was, I forget which order it went in. The first round was draft, the second round was sealed, and then the third round you got to combine the decks from the ones that you had.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like a really interesting kind of like mental challenge because, especially for the second round, you're like, do I pick stuff that works better with the cards that I got for the first one, or do I pick better cards and try to improve the deck? And so it's like a whole different kind of strategy, but I love it.
You got to
I think
remember
it's fun.
what was in the first deck as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You can't in that particular format. You can't look at your previous deck while you're doing it because you can't have both in your hand at the same time. It's like the usual, kind of thing where you like with draft, you pass it and look at it, and
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I totally I'm on board with limited. I love it. I'm not great at it, but I love it. So it's still pretty fun.
I mean, limited as well and draft I find is also you have to have a bit of luck, right? So like you've got to hit the right cards. But yeah, I think it's one of those formats that's not really seeing massive amounts. I mean, we see it like you say at the start of the set with a pre-release, or we've actually got pre-release kits now, whereas before it was just 6 boosters from a box. So it's improving, and I think it will just get better and better over time. But it's unfortunately the game is built around core constructed, so it will always unfortunately take a back seat. But I know it's definitely one of those ones. They've made well players play it last season, so they've obviously got it in mind. So
yep. So are there any cards on the core constructed side that y'all are looking forward to in Wilds Unknown?
So look at and play with. There's probably a few. I want to try the Woody, the Shift Woody, which is also obviously the set champs one. But outside of that, I'm a massive Sapphire player, so I played a lot of Ruby Sapphire, Sapphire Steel, and now a bit of Amber Sapphire. So I'm kind of like, I like those heavy ramp cards. So the Ursula I'm looking at looks quite interesting. Also, what have I done? Basically the new How Far Have I Gone? 5 cost.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking to try those and see how they go. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, all the cards look absolutely stunning. So to pick them out of a pack and have a look at them, definitely all of them. But yeah, I think the Sapphire ones are the ones that really caught my eye at the minute.
Nice. How about you, Glenn?
So I'm really excited by the fact that we've got some competitive looking theme decks coming out. I really like that idea. So obviously the toys decks seem to work really well together, but also 7 Dwarfs. So I'm going to be testing and playing a bit of that at locals. That looks really good fun. So I've been kind of an Amethyst player for a long time. Played Amethyst with pretty much every other color. Took a bit of a break from it this set because I got drawn into the dark side and played dogs.
Forgiving him.
But yeah, I'm quite excited by the prospect of a slightly different sort of purple steel deck that's a bit faster. I think there's some good cards there. The bit of testing that I've done tells me that Willow the Wisp card, it's only a little 1-drop, so easily overlooked, but that's a pretty damn good card. It keeps coming back into your hand. You keep playing it back out, especially against some of these sort of control decks that are trying to run you out of cards, and you just keep putting it back on the board. and obviously the dash par looks really interesting. If you can combo that off with a Pocahontas on board, that can be quite crazy. So yeah, but there's lots of good cards in all colours. So really looking forward to see what different decks people can cook up.
Yeah, it's.
What about yourself? Is there anything that stands out to you?
To be honest, I'm still kind of catching up. I try to keep track during reveal season. I know the that new Dale where it switches the willpower and the strength. That's going to be really interesting. I don't know. At the outset, it seems really strong, right? But because we do have a lot of like bigger, we've got the whole power creep thing going on, from set to set. And there are some really big ones that have, they're like, 2-6 or something, ridiculous like that. And to have him out there would be great to be able to do that kind of thing. But how often is that going to fire? How, is it going to actually work like you're expecting? I don't know. It'll take some testing to try to see how that goes. It looks really interesting though. And Glenn, I'm with you. I like the toy synergy and everything. I've kind of poked around at that deck a little bit, and it seems pretty decent actually. So I'm looking forward to it. Sorry, Michael, I totally interrupted.
No, you're right. I was just going to say, I think with the Dale, it's you've got two ways you can play it, right? You can play it as a defensive sort of card where you put it down and say, basically, if you want to challenge into me, you're going to take more damage than you would normally back. Or you could even play it as an offensive card and keep it in your hand and almost use it as a surprise. So, like, if you've got like 2 daisies down, they're like, "Oh, I can quest here," because you're never going to run Daisy into my Calhoun, for instance, where all of a sudden those daisies would become a 4/4. And so you can use it in both ways. So I think I think it's definitely going to see some play. I think it'll take a little while to work out what sort of deck it needs to be in, but I think it'll definitely see some play.
Yeah. So do y'all think, and Glenn, I guess this is kind of a question for you since you went to the dark side. Do you think that there's anything in Wilds that's going to like not completely shut down the dogs decks, but anything that would kind of knock them down a couple of notches?
Yeah, I definitely think there are cards that will do that. Will make dogs a lot harder to play. I just think there's a greater variety of competitive decks going to be seen in Wilds Unknown, and I think that makes it a bit harder for dogs. So dogs really thrived in a meta where there were 2 or 3 other, really competitive decks that it just had to be able to play around. And it, if you could beat 2 of those and go 50-50 with the other one, then you're in a great position. So I think what we're going to see now is a much greater variety of decks, from really fast decks through to some combo and some controlling decks. So I think that will be much harder for the dogs to be able to hold their lines to play around that. But it still a very strong deck. I think it will still be around. Still definitely have its place in the meta. It gains a few cards. I'm quite interested in the Jesse card, I think, for dogs. And there's a few other, the opportunity to just really make the most of Under the Sea by being able to reduce character strength. So there's better opportunities to do that with some of the cards in the new set. So yeah, I think it'll still be there, but I think there'll be a lot of other decks, and that's what's exciting for me. Is that I think we're going to see some. For a while, we've had the same sort of few decks circling around, and it's just been new cards that's been added to them each set. This, I think, feels like the set where we're going to see some new archetypes and some really new decks come in. I want to play around with the Flinger Dingers deck, as it's sort of commonly known, that damage moving deck in sort of Ruby Amethyst. And I think there's some cards in the new set, the Pepper Madrigal, that allows you to put damage across your board. I think could really enable that deck to suddenly really cause some problems. So again, for dogs, if you put the damage across your deck and you've got the help me out, Michael. Madam Medusa.
Yeah.
Boost 1 damage.
Oh,
yeah. All of a sudden, the opponent can't turn sideways because you're now sort of taking everything out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really excited for this set.
Nice. Yeah, I think it'll be. I'm totally with you. I think it's going to be an interesting kind of shift in, in just the meta in general. Because we've had the same kind of decks for the last couple of metas, and and I know some people have been like really, really wanting something different, and so it seems like this set is going to really deliver on that. So, here's hoping. I'm looking forward to it. I've been poking around on Ink decks and Dreamborn and trying to figure out, what seems like a fun deck to try out. And, and then of course I have to get my product and start opening and hope I get the cards. So, that small little component of it. So, yeah.
But, it's funny how we do it that way around and not open and then find out what deck we're playing.
I know, right? You would think that would make more sense.
We all just go, this is the deck I'm going to play. Now, fingers crossed,
Yeah. You hope that there's not that one card that's $50 each or whatever. It's like, yeah. So. Well, hey, Glenn, Michael, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. I had a great time talking with y'all, learning more about your content, yourself, all that kind of good stuff. So, I do want to end with the same 4 questions that I ask everybody. So first off, for each of y'all, favorite ink and card, and it can be card that you like to play, card that you like the art of, card that's from your favorite movie, whatever it is.
Oh, I'll go first. Give Glenn a little bit longer to think. For me, it's Sapphire. My favorite inks, it's got to be Sapphire. And for me, I think it's got to be Cinderella, the full cost. The princess, whenever you play the princess, you can ink and draw. That just really helps with a lot of decks. It can go into pretty much most blue decks. So and yeah, that was one of the ones that my other half pulled the Enchanted on our live stream as well. So
nice.
It was a nice one. So whenever I get to play that card, it reminds me of that. So yeah, I'd say that Sapphire and Cindy.
Okay.
So you played a CCQ early in that set, didn't you? And everyone was scrabbling around to get the cards, and I think you pulled like 5 Cinderellas by you went to the CCQ.
Oh my gosh!
Or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was something like 8 days in, and everyone's struggling, and I had like 6 of them on me. So
Can you come bless my packs or something to see if maybe the luck will rub off a little bit?
Unfortunately, it's not my luck. It's my other half. She pulled the Enchanted Dumbo the set before as well. So yeah, she opens all my stuff. I don't touch it.
Nice. All right, Glenn.
Yeah, I love the fact that Michael thought I'd need a second to think about this one. So the ink's going to be Amethyst. I love playing Amethyst and Genie. I'm a very big Genie fan. You can't quite see him, maybe. Big Genie fan. Big fan of Aladdin, especially the live action version. So being able to play actually Purple Steel, where I could get 3 different Genies in the deck. Was something that I really enjoyed.
Nice. Yeah, so I thought you might just need time to decide which Genie. That's the issue.
Which Genie? Yeah.
It's quite a few now. Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so favorite Disney movie and why?
Oh, I mean, yours is obviously Aladdin. I mean, you've just kind of spoiler alert on that one, haven't you?
Yeah. You'd be surprised, actually. I have asked that question after the ink and card question, and people were like, so despite what I just said, it's this completely other movie. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. It's usually like some childhood connection thing that does it. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Are we allowed Pixar?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I think, I say now, I hope this is Pixar movie. I'm kind of you know, be a bit wrong here otherwise. For me, I don't know why, but I love the film Ratatouille. It's one of those ones I could just watch over and over. Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that I'd happily sit down and watch multiple times.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of my comfort movies. So if I'm like
Yeah.
needing to power down and chill out, I put that on, and usually by at least the halfway point, I'm like, okay, now I'm ready for a nap. It's like it's a great movie, but you get to watching it so many times, and it's exciting, but it's not like too exciting to where you keep engaged too much. But yeah, no, I get you. It's a great movie. So, Glenn, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, right? I could reel a number off, but I love Disney songs. So actually, Encanto is one of my favorites.
So good.
But yeah, Aladdin probably my favorite, and Speechless. One of the songs in Aladdin. To me, one of the best sort of musical performances in a movie of all time. I think in the live action version, just the emotion that sort of comes through in that song. So yeah, one of the reasons that I really love that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's an incredible song. I have to admit the first time whenever I saw it, because we saw it in the theater, I was like, what song is this? Having grown up on the Robin Williams version of it. But now, watched it a couple of times and stuff, I can really like appreciate, the song and the passion and everything that it brings to the movie. And, and then we've got all the other songs too, but, but yeah, that is a really good one. So you guys have great picks. Okay. Next one, give a shout out to your favorite LGS or LGSs.
Oh, I'll do one. I'll let you do the other then. So I will go with obviously the one that we play out pretty much every Friday, which is Geek Retreat in Chelmsford. Yeah, that's where I started. That was my very first LGS. I was very nervous going in there, and absolutely loved it now. So yeah, it's definitely a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we've had a game store open just down the road from us. Three guys that had no store, so they would go to local markets and card shows. We met them at a card show. We met them at some market stalls. Sort of chatted to them for a while, and then they said they were hoping to find somewhere where they could open a store. They've opened a store in our town, so really, really local for both of us. They've been amazingly hospitable to us, sort of welcomed us in as a community, and they're doing really well actually. So it's
Nice.
lovely to see lots and lots of people playing all different TCGs. Yeah, they're called the Other Game Store, which is nice and confusing.
That's a great name, actually.
Yeah. But it's also one of these proper game stores, and by that I mean, you've got to go down a side alley and find the back exit, and then up some stairs, and then it all suddenly opens out into this game store with lots of color and lots of product around the walls. So yeah,
nice. And I'll get all the contact information for that stuff and make sure it ends up in the show notes so that people can find those if they're interested in stopping by, if they're in the area. So, and last but not least, where can people find you, your content, and all that great stuff?
So our main obviously video goes out on YouTube. Uninkable Dads is our YouTube channel. It also goes live on Spotify and Apple Music at the same time. So that's the main bulk of it. And then obviously socials, I think we're pretty much on all of them. I don't think there's any we're missing. So we're on Insta, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, I can't think of any others off the top of my head right now. We have got X, but we don't use it very often, but it is on there. But yeah, all of them, if you go to our YouTube page, our link trees there, and then all of our links are in there. So
okay, perfect. All right, well, hey, thanks guys again. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm glad that this kind of worked out with our time zone differences and everything. But yeah, thank you again, and we'll see you around the community.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Been great to chat to you.
Y'all too. Well, it was great to get to talk with Glenn and Michael tonight. And it's always nice to get some perspective from people in a different part of the world, too. So, if you like the show, make sure to subscribe, rate, and like the show on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can find us on all the socials at Inkwell Lounge, or you can find a full list of links at inkwelllounge.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.